Daily Focus, and sorry I missed yesterday, but I actually had a chance to go play golf in the morning, and then had lots of meetings and things going on throughout the day trying to solve the fuel tank removal of the old property and all of those details, and kept me pretty busy. But I'm glad to be with you this morning. John chapter 8 is a really good chapter to remind us of how Jesus deals with sin and how he is able to discern the agenda and intents of people who paint a picture of what they think is the problem, or they want you to think the problem is, compared to what it is they're really doing. And so in John chapter 8, we have the woman overtaken in adultery. And Jesus went unto the Mount of Olives, and early in the morning he came again into the temple, and all the people came unto him, and he sat down and taught them. And the scribes and Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery, and when they had set her in the midst, they say unto him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. Now Moses and the prophets commanded us that such should be stoned. But what sayest thou? This they said, tempting him, that they might have to accuse him. But Jesus stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground, as though he heard them not. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. And they which heard it, being convicted in their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest, even unto the last. And Jesus was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. And when Jesus had lifted up himself and saw none but the woman, he said unto her, Woman, where are those thine accusers? Hath no man condemned thee? She said, No man, Lord. And Jesus said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. Well, this is a very familiar passage, a very familiar story, but sometimes some of the details gets, glossed over and ignored that are very critical to understanding how Jesus handles this situation. I think it's important that just because somebody brings a problem for us to solve, I think Jesus is teaching us to step back and evaluate what is it that they really want. I've actually in ministry had people come to me demanding that I solve something, and I've literally looked at them and said, what is it you really want? And it does put them on their heels, and because what they're asking, the problem they're sharing is not nearly what they're making it out to be. And so it makes me ask the question, if this isn't what they're making it out to be, then what is it that they want it to be? So what is it that they really want? And I think Jesus teaches us to be wise. And so these scribes and Pharisees tempting Jesus bring this woman overtaken in a fault or taken in the very act of adultery. It's very interesting. Where was the man? Why was the man not there? Was the man a Pharisee or a scribe? There's lots of unanswered questions as to why is it this woman, but no doubt that the text is clear. They're bringing this woman, tempting Jesus to just see what he's going to do, that they might have something to accuse him. So if he stones her, then he doesn't have any grace, pity, love. If he doesn't stone her, then he's not valid. He's not credible. He doesn't upkeep the law. And so Jesus, being wiser than all of them and knowing their hearts, what an advantage he has. But he just simply starts writing in the dirt. And, many people have, speculated and wondered, what was Jesus writing? I don't know, so I'm not going to speculate. And I really don't think that it has anything to do with the story, except whatever it was, was convicting. It convicted them in their conscience. And so when Jesus said, "You that are without sin, you throw the first stone," and he stooped down and started to write some more. So what was it he wrote first? He makes the statement, and what is he now writing that convicted them so much that they got out of Dodge, that they just left? I don't know. But I do know this, that Jesus and the woman are left there, and Jesus says to the woman, "Where are the people who were accusing you?" Because that was necessary in order for her to be stoned. And she's like, "They're all gone." And Jesus said, "Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more." And some people say, so Jesus didn't condemn her for her adultery? No, he is saying, "I am not going to condemn you to be stoned. I'm not going to take up their cause. I'm not going to take up their agenda. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to be the one that causes you to be stoned." That was their responsibility, and they're all gone. So I'm not going to take on their responsibility. So go and don't do this again. You have avoided what you really did have coming, but they all left. So there's no accusers, and I'm not going to be that accuser. And so he did not put his stamp of approval on adultery. He did not gloss over it and say adultery is no big deal. He isn't saying that at all. He's just simply saying, "I'm not going to be the one to condemn you to death. I'm going to tell you, don't do it again. Change your life, change your lifestyle. Don't do this." And that is a testimony of his grace. And I think that so many times we want justice, especially if we've been offended or we've been hurt or we've been inconvenienced. We want justice. But then if we're the one that offended, or we inconvenienced somebody, or we wronged somebody, we want them to show us grace. And so Jesus is the perfect model of balancing both. And I think what he was saying to these coming in, get your own nose clean. In other words, get the beam out of your own eye before you start addressing the slivers in other people's eyes. You have some real problematic sin problems in your own life. And I think that reminds us that for all of us, we have a responsibility to address sin. We have a responsibility to confront wrongdoing, but we do it in the context of grace, not to destroy the person, but to truly come alongside and help the person to grow and change and mature. So many times when somebody gets dirt on somebody, I'm going to use this as a billy club to destroy them, to show everybody how bad they are. God says that's not our job. That's not what we do. We're not pointing out how evil someone is. We're not pointing out the failure so that everyone knows they did fail and that, they're not so perfect after all, or whatever it is. Those are self-centered reasons for exposing their sin. Those are very selfish agendas for confronting somebody's wrongdoing. Jesus makes it very clear in Galatians chapter 6 that we confront wrongdoing for the sake of the other person, that we might stay in fellowship with them, but more importantly, that they would stay in fellowship with God. And so I become an agent to help them understand how important their fellowship is with God and to come alongside to bear their burden. And if I can't do that, if I just want to use it as a manipulation, or I want to use it in a way to get the upper hand, or to show everybody how good I am compared to them, God said, don't do it. You need to go with meekness and understand that this is to be a help to this person. It's not to elevate people's opinion of you. And so Jesus is a great example here of just reminding us that sometimes you have to deal with the people who are bringing you the problem, because they're only bringing the problem for an ulterior reason. Sometimes when you have to deal with the person, you have to help people understand that this isn't a competition as to who's more wicked or who's more spiritual. That's not the issue. And if that's the issue, that's a totally different issue than you're trying to get me to solve. And then when we do deal with it, it's not about condemning the person for wrongdoing. It's helping them mature through bad decisions to make better decisions in the future. And so Jesus simply says, go and sin no more. What a great admonition for all of us. And I hope you have a great weekend. I'm glad you joined me this week. I look forward to seeing you on Monday. God bless.